Obersberg, on the Czechoslovak frontier near Eger, the soldiers restored order after a terrible Nazi outbreak. German Democrats, Czechs, Catholics, and Jews had been murdered in their beds, or sometimes shot down by snipers in the streets. It made no difference how many centuries they and their people had lived in the Sudeten areas. All who were not Nazis were marked as victims. When order was restored, the authorities found a great many instruments of Nazi persuasion, including rubber truncheons of the German style, the same as those used in the Nazi concentration camps. These, like the arms and munitions used for Nazi rioting, were imported from Germany. Seven who died in this way, Czech and German anti-Nazis, were buried at Falkenau in the Egerland. There were many other such funerals in the stricken areas claimed by the swastika. Czech and German Democrats mourned their dead together. At last, after Nazi rioting had gotten out of hand in many places throughout the Sudeten districts, President Beneš proclaimed martial law. The SDP, or Henlein Nazi Party, which had been allowed to carry on its murderous agitation all these months, was at last declared illegal. The soldiers closed up Nazi Brown House headquarters in Karlsbad, Eger, and other cities. And Nazi newspapers like Die Zeit. An old German workman restored the Czech names on road and street signs. The area had returned to public order under military law. When on that same afternoon, Mr. Neville Chamberlain climbed the long road to Berchtesgaden. Hitler's villa on the Obersalz mountain, the British Prime Minister accepted the principle of Hitler's claims, accepted it under pressure of Hitler's threat to turn loose the Nazi army and air force against any nations that would try to aid the small democracy that he had singled out for destruction. When the results of the deal at Berchtesgaden were imposed on the Czech nation by ultimatum, hundreds of thousands of people turned out in protest. It was a bewildered people, singing and weeping by turns. But we who were in Prague that night can never forget it. Women in the Parliament Square shouted at the government, "We give you our sons, give them arms." The government heeded the people's will to resist and reorganized. President Beneš proclaimed general mobilization. The people welcomed mobilization, even though their last hour of peace seemed to have come, for they still believed in their allies. The The men of Czechoslovakia went off to what they fully expected would be war. A war in which Czechoslovakia must bear the brunt of the fight, but would be aided by those who had pledged to help her. The spirit of the people in those days filled us all with admiration. We saw them going off to battle against the most ruthless military power the world has known. And although they could not hope to stand long alone against that tremendous force, they were ready to die so that their children might be assured of freedom. They had a considerable military force of their own. For 20 years, they had been formidably organized for defense against the very danger that now threatened them. The Czech army and air force were only 1/10 the size of Germany's, and they had no hope of holding out by themselves. The outcome depended on their allies. France had solemnly guaranteed the Czechoslovak Republic. England was pledged to France. The democratic powers had the firm alliance of Soviet Russia and other European countries. They had the sympathy of America and the whole non-fascist world. In addition, wide sections of the German people and army were opposed to a war of aggression against Czechoslovakia. The aim of this tremendous national effort was to preserve freedom and democracy in Czechoslovakia, peace and order in Europe by standing firm against the threats of fascism.